And we are up. And thanks for stopping by Beacon Road Show. I am your host, Rich Levesque, and today I am joined by today's guest, Tamara Leigh. Glad to have you, my friend.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. Very excited.
Awesome. And it's just a reminder to all those watching and listening that you're doing the best you can today with what you have to work with. Whether it feels like it or not, you are enough and you matter. Please take extra special care of yourself today and every day. Here on the show, everything's intended to come back to that message because ultimately, we're all doing our best to be our best and to be seen and heard both by ourselves and by the world around us. And the goal for this show is to honor that by speaking of how that works for us and what it can look like. We'll share stories of how we're navigating that journey, and we'll also talk about skills and tools that are available to help us along on our own journeys. And that's the thing, there's no one way for anything. We each have to find what works in our own ways and on our own terms. Like all things, treat it like a buffet table. Take what works and leave the rest. And in whatever way you came about finding this little corner, and however you choose to use it, it's an honor to have you here. Tamara is a Tantrika and business strategist for spiritual, heart-centered, ambitious women. In her own words, I built a self-sufficient business from behind the screen during the height of a world crisis and am now creating an epic program that teaches the exact methods to bring your confidence, gifts, and financial desires to life. I am passionate about helping women on stopping the burnout cycle, building confidence and self-worth, removing shame, manifesting money through their gifts, using their gifts to transform lives, manifesting a life of pleasure and abundance through exact methods that will activate high tantric frequencies and implement highly effective strategies for a profitable business. Manifesting a highly aligned, dreamy life where your business is your pleasure and abundance. Tamara's website is sensual-mystic.com, where you can contact her and book an appointment. Again, thank you for joining us. And, let's talk about what a tantrika is. That's not a word that, you hear, regularly. Tell us a little bit about, what that means and how you came about in that direction, if you'd like.
Okay, so Tantra is a way of living. It's a way of being. It's an aspect of yoga. Commonly, people would refer more to Tantra as opposed to Tantrika, which is, Tantrika is more of a practitioner of, as opposed to just the fullness of what it is that you're practicing. So, for myself, this is a way that I have adopted in my own life. It's taken a long time to move into this kind of canvas exactly. I feel like it allows me to have a lot of different types of expression through all of the different tools that I have encompassed over the years that fall under the umbrella of yoga or meditation or wellness. A lot of mainstream media really gives this direction of Tantra being sexually oriented. And so a lot of people, when they hear Tantra, they automatically think of like the Kama Sutra, or they think of, this wave of energy surrounding this practice. And that is an element of it, but it isn't what it is. Tantra, to me, is the way through. And so there are different schools of practice and different kind of ideas as to how to be, one-pointed or devoted or disciplined when it comes to yoga. And for many years, I studied more of what would have been kind of designated as a Puritanism path. So It was very much about like abstaining from the senses and not indulging in the senses and overriding the senses, and just kind of a very, very strict discipline, something that you would see more ascribed to like monks or, nuns, in the Catholic Church or other religious organizations. But it's really kind of more of a practice where you're conditioning yourself for abstinence or conditioning yourself to, just be really above and beyond and outside the realm of being attached to any sense pleasure, whether that's like enjoyment of food or enjoyment of a comfortable bed or enjoyment of, sensual pleasure or anything like this. And so that was the path that I was really, really hugging very tight to for quite a few years. And it was after a very traumatic ending of a relationship where there was a lot of triggers and a lot of wounds and a lot of things coming up, where I found it very challenging to sit within the container that I had been inside for so long. And so I decided to explore another way of being able to still participate in some of the disciplines that I had really, really come to know as my comfort in life, but without having the association of the routine before. And that's where I really started stepping into Tantra. And so the best way for me to say that I feel it's the way for me, at least at present, is there's so much spiritual shaming, and there's so much religious shaming, and there's so much conditioning in the world to make people feel gross about their humanity and their sensuality and their sexuality and their wants and their desires. And I do believe both paths are beautiful paths. But I don't believe that it serves people in the way that it's being brought out in the world at this point in time. I've seen a lot of religious, spiritual people in, particular roles in spiritual organizations, etc., that end up coming to me, through whatever means for counsel or just opening up conversation. And I've seen a lot of people just really, really destroyed in terms of their self-worth, and really hating themselves, even in like, really prestigious positions in their religious organizations, just hating themselves because of their humanity and because of their sexuality and because of their appetite to indulge in simple things like comfort and a bed and, and food or a relationship. And there's this kind of, overarching theme that in order to be pure, in order to be holy, in order to be spiritual, in order to be good, or worthy, you have to follow X, Y, Z. And you have to do it perfectly. And if you don't, then, you're not good, or you're shameful, or you're all of these things. So I think that I found a lot of that just by association with the Catholic religion, as a child. Like, it was really a big message, even though I don't remember that being like an impressed message in my household. It was a big message and something that I really internalized. And so I feel that Tantra offers you the opportunity to be present with your senses, to get to know them, but to really drop into them. So instead of just looking at a taste pleasure or looking at a sexual pleasure and, applying, that ravenous lust, instead you can partake in the experience and become present with it. And I feel the more present you are with anything in your life, the less attachment you're going to have to it, because it becomes part of your very moment. It becomes part of presence. And when you start to walk consciously, presently, then, you don't have the same repetitious thoughts. You don't have the rumination that what happens to so many of us over being shamed and guilt-ridden over particular things. And so Tantra, is a way of being, and it greatly applies to my own healing and a lot of what I embody in what I teach. And then that also extends to, my program and what I'm working on, which I've called Money Tantrika, because there is so much shame around money in our culture as well. And so I'll pass it back over to you. That was a mouthful.
Yeah, that was a lot to dig through. And what was, going through my mind as I was listening to you, thinking of all these different, experiences, from, going from childhood. I'm from, New England. I'm a vet from a very, Catholic, very, Puritan, area. And, all of these things are true, like the judgments and, and it's trying to, and people can't release, and, the repression is real. And for some, it comes out as, self-defeating behaviors, and others, it comes out in ways where they lash out and, point blank become abusive. It comes out somewhere. It always does. And if we were able to learn that so many, and shame is just, it is such a powerful, awful tool. And I think a lot of times it's something that generation to generation, this is what we learned, this is what we know, and we pass it along. A lot of times we think we're doing our best for the next generation by passing it along because we don't know any better. And it takes, people like yourself to come along and kind of, it's a gift to see it for what it is and to be able to break that glass. And it's, we talk about, our, freedom this and freedom that. And the thing is, freedom is within. Freedom is like being secure, learning to be secure enough with yourself to be able to explore whichever path you take. And, it doesn't, whether, you choose to live a conservative way because that's what's right to you, that's perfect, just as well as people who want to go and explore, and just try all these different avenues. They're all, but the thing is, we don't learn that we have the freedom to play and explore and, try a thing. Okay, this doesn't feel like this is me. Awesome, let's go somewhere else. Instead, we learn to, we take on what we believe we have to. And, people will, they'll, not just in religious terms, like we talk, but, they'll follow, they'll go to college and take the major that, that's going to make their parents happy. Yeah. And then they go and they, they date and they marry the person that's, they may like them, they may be attracted to them, but they're not the person that is like they're not their person. It's their right now person, but they're like, I'm 26 and this is what I got to do.
Yeah.
And then it goes on to, you're working for the promotion and the career you hate. And then, maybe by the time you're 70, you get to retire and you get a good year or two.
Yeah. It's all backwards.
It is.
And everything that you're touching on is, they're all major pain points that have been a huge focus for me. My brain is forever, like an octopus, just kind of looking for answers for humanity and trying to solve what I've boiled down to as shame. That is the number one thing that I do focus on with my clients, and self-worth, whether that's money or whether that is embodying one's, sensuality and stepping into a space of healing. It is shame. And what's the antidote to shame? It's self-acceptance. And that is not the curriculum of our present day society at all, really. And so, it seems like a small percentage of people are finding one another online and meandering through this kind of journey. And, unfortunately, society, one of my deep kind of acknowledgments is society is casted or shadowed as being very superficial. But when you get to work with tens of thousands of individuals, which has been my, one of the gifts in this lifetime for me, people are actually very deep. People are quiet. People are conditioned. People are afraid to share their voice and what it is that, keeps them ticking. But ultimately speaking, people in general, I found, are very deep and are having a conscious collective experience. And so, it's interesting for me that it doesn't matter what religion, what background you come from, any of these things. I've had a huge affinity for bringing language to humanity. And so I've studied aspects of Christianity and Catholicism and Taoism and Buddhism and Hinduism and Judaism, and, just really, really looking for the heart. And the heart is the same, everywhere. The heart is the same everywhere. And so when somebody is inspired towards self-realization, and a lot of my learning and teaching came from the Self-Realization Fellowship, which is kind of like a church of all religions, my guru. And so, yoga is thought of as asanas, which is postures, but it's so much more than that. It's, we would say it's like the rod to God. And so for those that believe in God,
I like that.
Yeah. For those that don't, whatever kind of consciousness or collective vastness or higher aspect of self that you believe in, yoga is meditation. So ultimately you're preparing your spine, and you do that through movement. You do that through sitting. And this contemplation, drives you towards positive action. And we have, we can retrain our brain. So neuroplasticity, right? The more you do something, the more you become conditioned. And so we were all really conditioned to be ashamed to stray from the family, ashamed to stray from a particular avenue that we were all pushed towards, ashamed to stray from a system that, is programmed to teach people to follow suit with, a particular kind of education, and everybody should be lawyers and doctors and, professors. And where does that leave, the other 86% of the population? How is everyone else supposed to feel when these were, kind of like the trademarks and staples in society? So shame is something that, what's interesting to me is it's an emotion that we have taught our body to experience, because when we were little children, we didn't experience shame. That's very conditioned, but yet it still has a very physiological effect. And so when we can tap into the physical representation of what shame does in the body, or what guilt does in the body, and you feel that fieriness, that hot, heat that rushes through, the overwhelming, sensations, the squirming, or the bolting sensation to get away from yourself. And we can really learn to sit with that. And that's, a great deal what Tantra does. It's like working with the shadow self. You're facing your demons. You're facing the things that have caused you so much judgment, in the past. And so for yourself or myself or those that are watching, it's kind of like, you're darned if you do, you're darned if you don't in
Right.
society nowadays. You're either to this or not enough, or to that or not enough. And so really breaks down to taking ownership and being willing to step into a place where you decide that it doesn't matter how many people are going to judge you, because people are all conditioned to judge you. You are going to have that Band-Aid and rip it off and start walking that authentic path, whatever that is for you. And you are on that path, and likely, your subscribers and followers. But it's a terrifying path. It's that.
Oh, it can be.
Right? Like, because you're taking a leap of faith, and you don't know if anybody's going to be there to catch you, because you're stepping into uncharted territory a lot of the time, that black sheep. And
Yep. And it's so true. It's just kind of, and what I've found, since I kind of started heading in that direction, and for me, myself, without going, I'm not going to derail this and go too deep into my own stuff, but I hit a point where in order to continue to physically survive, I had to, to face my own stuff, my own shadow, my own shame, and, start making some choices and accept that, all right, this path is not only not mine, it is literally killing me. And I need to step off and try and go in these other directions and follow them. Even if it seems like in the eyes of others, it's like, what the hell is he doing? Is he nuts?
Yeah.
And yeah, you get a lot of that. And, part of it is learning that it's not mine to take on. It's what's, being reflected back. It's what's scaring them about them. Mm-hmm. And I have no control of that. I can't make somebody see things. And what, the weird things I've learned in my own journey are, eventually, if you keep going, you're going to find your people. They may be your people for a time, and then maybe their journey takes you in another direction, and that's okay. But sometimes, you eventually find, for me, it was online, but also I found that there were people that were in my life that I would not have even expected, that would pull me over to the side and be like, all this stuff you say, yeah, that's me. I mean, I can't, I don't feel safe going down there, but yeah, that's also, I mean, and I'm not going to tell somebody to jump into a place if they're not ready to go. That's just abuse. But, and that's the thing that I want to keep imploring. And, I think you bring that same message along, is there's more people watching and being inspired and rooting for you than you're probably ever going to know.
Way more than you'll ever know. And I just got the shivers when you said that. I had, opportunities to step onto platforms and have audiences and have access to so many souls. And when we share our superpower, which becomes vulnerability, when you've taken that leap of faith and you have that experience of the same experience that I've had in my own way, which is like, you save your soul. You're not just a machine, forcing yourself through the motions, but you step into something that feels alive, you start living. And it's a raw place. It's a raw place. And every day it's still a raw place. And you get more brave and you get more fierce because you know the impact and the power of living. And so you want to keep living. And you see, or I had the opportunity over time to start just receiving so much feedback, in my personal inbox. And I would think, I had no idea these people, a lot of times you post something and nobody will say anything. And it's months down the road or years down the road. And, you have people that reach out and say, and it happens to me all the time now, just as my consistency, of being vulnerable continuously. I didn't jump off the bridge. I heard your words. I heard your live. I heard you share your story. And it's like, it's incredible, the power of just sharing your own story, because people feel like their problems are so unique. And what people don't realize is our problems are so collective. Our pain is so collective. Our shame is so collective. And you aren't alone in that. You're just absolutely not alone in it. You're likely suffering silently alongside all of your peers and friends and family, and have no idea that while you're all putting on the smiley face or, hiding away from people, that everybody is collectively going through a lot of the same stuff. So that message is so powerful right now. And, it's a huge conversation, a huge mission to help people feel more human and more okay with themselves, because you're beautiful just as you are, as broken, as messy, as hurting as you are. You still have so much worth. And, it's,
Amen. And I'm finding too, it's, that message is so, so important, especially in these days where it literally looks like everything's going to hell in a handbasket. And in a way, it is. And, people are in the process of being rocked out of their foundations. And I think you're still at a point now where I tell people, and they look at me funny. It's, this is like a baseball game that goes 9 innings. We're only in about the 3rd or 4th inning right now. There's still so many other, factors. I don't know what they are, but I just know that there's so much more. And what's happening is people are, one thing is, we don't learn how to deal with uncertainty. And it brings out, the fear in us. And when that fear takes over, and you're seeing it now, it brings out brings out our shadows. It brings out our dark sides. I'm seeing things out of people that I'm like, whoa, I had no idea you had that in you. And I find myself, that again, that empath thing, I'm just kind of like, hi, turtle. And but I also know that as frustrating and as unnerving as it is, it's part of what needs to happen, and people need to go through these stages.
Mm-hmm.
And and just trying to be as present, and trying to trying to be a foundation that people wherever they're at can kind of be like, either if they're just listening to me, or listen to people like yourself, or just or reaching out, to know that there's still voices that see them and hear them and are there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a really powerful message at this point in time is, this is a world pandemic, and whatever viewpoint any individual has on it, collectively, we're experiencing a pandemic. This is going down in history. It's a pretty big freaking deal.
Yep.
And you know what? It's a trauma response, and everybody deals to trauma differently. And not everybody has the tools, and not everybody has the ideal environment, and not everybody has the security necessary to work through this with ease. And so just, knowing that wherever you are in this, you know, if your days are up and down and, you know, you're joyful and taking advantage and the next day you're on the floor crying because it's overwhelming and, you know, it's freaking you out, wherever you are in this, like it's completely okay, because this is uncharted territory and, you know, it's overwhelming for people with the most tools, you know, including myself. It's weird, it's strange, it's bizarre, you know, and I have a lot of tools to pull on, but I'm watching a lot of people struggle, and I have a lot of people, you know, in my physical life that are leaning on me, that are struggling with their mental health to really, really great degrees right now. It's really destabilizing. And you know, there's other people that are doing the best that they've done in a really long time because they've had that quiet and introspection. So it's like everything is happening right now. And none of us really know, unless, you know, the people around you are going to be very vulnerable and raw, exactly what's going on with the next person. But, you know, for me, I had taken a sabbatical. So I had done massage treatments and holistic health and run multidisciplinary clinics and worked with all of this holistic and yogic and meditative and Tai Chi and all of this for the better part of 13 years. And I took a 1-year sabbatical, and I decided that I was going to step outside of everything that I had done and just go and work and give myself some creative space as a creative, to just not be forced to be doing, you know, my own entrepreneurial stuff. I didn't have to, you know, show up in that way. And I wanted to let myself kind of just marinate and see like where I was going to pivot. And the last day at my job, I was praying to the cosmos, like, how can I get out of this tomorrow? Because it was just not resonating with my soul. And a pandemic was not the answer I was looking for. And obviously I'm not the one that had anything to do with it, but it just aligned with me to sit in a very scary place for a couple weeks, because at that point in time, you know, everybody was like dropping their clothes in garbage bags and silvering and spraying ourselves and everything. Like, do you guys remember that? Do you remember like those first couple days? I mean, I wouldn't let my kids touch the part of the car that I was in. I'd like sanitize everything. And I was like, who cares if we ruin everything with alcohol? It's a world pandemic. It doesn't matter, you know? So it was so intense. And I remember thinking, I don't have enough clothes to leave them in garbage bags outside my house for 2 weeks at a time while the virus dies. So we were just swept up in this intensity. The whole world is global. Total fear sets in because you have no idea what's going on. Nobody's got toilet paper. So there's
the toilet paper wars.
And I'm like, all of this is so ancient already, but it was so real. Like, you couldn't even get toilet paper. My dad had to drive like 2 hours from the city to throw me from his car to my church some toilet paper, like just totally bizarre stuff. And then I'm sitting there without income and I'm thinking, what do I do? You know, single mom, I'm sitting here in this house. We still need food. It's a pandemic. And all of a sudden, my livelihood, just like many others, was just wiped. And it's not like I could go back to my other business anyways. I couldn't massage. I couldn't do anything in the service.
Right. That was all shut right down.
Yeah.
And I was in the same boat because a lot of what I was doing, besides, I'd been doing a lot of, driving, and, that's how I made my money. I went out, I would go out like 3 or 4 nights a week, and, and then I went out, I tried going out that first weekend because I would denial mostly. And, the only people I was picking up were, people that were sent home from work early, that were working in like restaurants and bars, and, nobody was out. Everything was a ghost town. And then the other thing was I had like, some college kids that were just devastated because, they were being sent home. Their sports seasons were just, cut right off. And just, I remember there was just that collective unease, uncertainty. Nobody knew what was coming.
Yeah.
And it was it ended up not really playing like that. But, I remember a couple of the kids were asking me, what does this feel like to you? And to me, it was like the closest was maybe, the afternoon of 9/11, where you're just kind of like, you don't know up from down, and you're just kind of like broadsided. And then, I'd kind of realized that, all right, I'm probably making like 10% of what I would. This is pointless. And, I'm coming back to to a kid that's a diabetic. I'm like, I don't know what I'm bringing in. I don't know what's going to happen. And then, kind of in that same boat, like, you're trying to bubble up, and, all right, where am I going to figure out, how am I going to pay the car? How are we going to get all this stuff done? But I just kind of stopped myself one day. I'm just like, all right, I have no control over any of this.
No.
And I just, what happens, happens. And then it kind of ended up, working out. Certain things fell into place. Not only did I make the payment, my car ended up getting paid off. And then I was able to, tie up a couple of other, it's like, and things just kind of, really fell into place. And I've been able to really go all in on this project. I was able to get this, show up and running, and, and just kind of really just walking with this and see it, and just trusting where it goes. It feels like this is what, I keep getting told, this is the path. This is the path. And you know what? Every time I disagree and I try to make my own path, I get a little. So, all right, I'm going to do it your way. Yeah. Here I am.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, I'm so excited to share and embrace this moment. Like, we're both very blessed and both very lucky, to be in the positions that we're in, is just the honest to God truth, because there's a lot of people that are suffering and struggling and losing businesses, losing their health, losing their life savings, losing lives. The economy in Lebanon is totally shut down. There's the explosion in Beirut. There's thousands of people displaced. And even in the third world countries, the starvation rates, like, there's all sorts of really, really devastating impacts for a lot of people. So I like to take a moment to just kind of send out some prayers and some light to all of you that have been like really negatively impacted by this in harmful ways. There's been harmful situations in terms of like headspaces for my children and stuff like that through this. But overall, comparatively speaking to most people, like, I've been in a really beautiful and positive place. There's lots of people that maintained their jobs, but I wasn't one of them. So to be one of those people that was all of a sudden without work, and then even the government subsidies that came in here in Canada, that CERB benefit, that doesn't even cover my rent. That's right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's a third or a quarter of what I was making. And so that wasn't going to cut it if I wanted to pay my bills and do the things and carry on. Now, of course, I had to sit with that same surrender that all of us have had to, and just surrender it. Like, if I didn't have the money for things, I didn't have the money for things, and that's when I decided, and I felt just like you felt, this is the path. I had invested already in a handful of different online business schools and mentorship throughout the years. And I had played around a lot on social media. So I had somewhat of a handle, and I was able to drum up business and market and advertise and do copywriting and things like that, and website stuff for people over the years. So I had tried my thumb at a few things, but I decided to invest in some incredible mentorship and coaching with one of the most awesome business strategists. And
awesome.
I decided I was going to go big or go home, and I was going to take a major risk, because it was a major risk. I didn't have money, and I was investing a lot of money into courses, and I just wanted to freshen up. I wanted to be on fire. I wanted to just kind of take this as far as I possibly could. And I really didn't, I'll make this little point here. Most people after high school start getting responsibilities, so you get a car, you get rent, you have this,
Yep.
you have that. And people don't want to take risks anymore. So people get comfortable because they're afraid that they're going to take away from themselves or take away from people if they stay on that ledge of discomfort. And so I had this in my mind, and I'm quite entrepreneurial, so my brain is very risky with things, calculated, but I thought, this is a world pandemic. We don't know what the heck is going to happen. I was like, what does this money mean anyways? We don't even know at that point in time, like things sounded so scary. We thought everybody might, be wiped off the planet the way that it was sounding at the beginning.
Yeah.
And so I just did it. And within a very short period of time, I guess having the development of all of the different skill sets in the background and playing around, I was able to, reinstate like my income that I had been making physically in the world in a very short period of time. So I feel incredibly blessed, and this huge, huge ordeal in the world really lit a fire in me to just go all in, and step into this. And I've wanted to step into this for 5 years, but I was a little too comfortable or a little too scared. And yeah, it took that for me.
And it's easy to fall into that, trap. Like you start to kind of take a risk. Okay, I think I may see a couple of sharks over there, and like jump back, and and now it's kind of gotten to the point exactly where
it's still scary.
Oh, absolutely, because
still scary.
it's still unknown.
But the whole world is unknown. We'll never know. Everything always is uncertain. So you hit the nail on the head with that earlier when you talked about uncertainty, because that is the thing that destabilizes people and throws people into panic and fear like nothing else. But when you can just honestly sit with the truth that nothing really was or is as stable as what people think,
it was all an illusion.
Yep. Look at the world. We don't know what's happening. Like places in Australia right now are getting a second wave, and they're in stage 4 of lockdown again. Stage 4, not 3.
Yeah, they just went right back into lockdown and
curfew on top of that. So we don't know.
And here in the States, we're probably, it's very possible we could be heading in that same direction. Things are starting to go the wrong way again.
Yeah. And we thought, oh, this is crazy when we heard about China and Italy. And I have family in Italy, like my cousins and stuff. And they were, getting upset with the stuff I was posting on Facebook. They're like, you guys have no idea what's coming. We had no idea what was coming.
No, we didn't.
We had no idea.
Like I posted something similar right before everything happened. And it was kind of like, something along the lines of the media crying wolf, which does happen.
Yeah.
And, so of course, you hear that enough times, you just start thinking that, it's just going to be more of that again. And then somebody from Europe was just like, oh, here, I'm going to show you this. I'm going to show you this. You wait. And then it was just kind of like, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. No matter what your viewpoint is on this pandemic, it has, just pulled the rug out from all of us. Like we're all equally in the weirdness and the strangeness of our times. And it's it's humbling. And I think it's just such a beautiful opportunity to say to anybody out there, like, my heart bleeds for creatives. I've always been a creative, dance, singing, acting, all that stuff, all that jazz. And then add on the spirituality and wellness mix. Only 16% of the population work from a place of intuition or feeling. So the sensitive, creative, alternative types of souls really suffer a lot trying to make their way in the world. And I think that this container of what's been happening has given a lot of sensitives and creatives a voice that they didn't know that they had, because that quiet became something very powerful, and it allowed people to really align themselves with what matters. And it's given people a new ignition within themselves to take a leap of faith in something that is more aligned, because people's souls are crying. People's souls are needing this. And so I love working with creatives and sensitive individuals. It's not just spiritual beings. It's creative, sensitives, anybody that just has that kind of little twinkle inside that says, I know I want to be doing something else.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, my mission is to say, let's do it, you know, because you can. Every single person that's watching absolutely can. Even if that's just, you know, stepping into a space where they ask for more money, you know, at work, or more respect at the space that they're at, or better boundaries with the people in their life. You know, that's all stepping into higher alignment. And that's kind of my mission.
Amen.
So,
And
yeah.
that's what's needed.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to start to wind this down, and we're going to change gears a little bit. I'm going to ask a few kind of quick, mostly kind of fun questions.
All right.
If people are familiar with Actor Studio with James Lipton or Lewis Howe's podcast, where we kind of ask these quickies. And I just no hard lifting, just the first thing that comes to mind. There's no wrong answers. All right?
All right.
Okay. If you could jump back in time and experience one event in person, what would it be?
One world event?
Yep.
I'm seeing myself parasailing or paragliding. Some big binoculars. I don't know. That's a weird thing. Flying, first flight.
Well, those are good ones. I know with myself, mine would be Live Aid in London.
Oh, okay. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah.
Next one. What's the one thing in your day that if you go without it, it just throws everything off a track?
Resetting my thoughts in the morning, just breathing, and some movement. My life kind of tanks when I stop dancing, so that's a big part.
Amen. So that whole, get up and, move around and.
Yeah.
Absolutely. A drive-through, it could be food, it could be beverage, whatnot. A drive-through that even to now, even if you don't go for it, you're still kind of like, do I want to? Can I?
Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm slightly limited here as a vegetarian, but I would say Dairy Queen for ice cream.
Dairy Queen, that's a good one. Mine is, and you'll appreciate this from Canada. We used to have Tim Hortons down here and that was my favorite. And then they all closed, and now you're tormenting me with it. And there's a point last year I was up around Buffalo, and they had them, and like there were points where I was traveling. I literally would like buy two, and like half of the I was just like, oh, this is gold. This is gold. So yeah, so Tim's is mine too.
I guess Tim's would be mine too. I mean, I go there without thinking about it. So yeah.
Excellent. And it's really funny because around here, like everybody's about Dunkin', and I do, I'll go into them from time to time, and I do enjoy them. But if they ever put Tim's up here again, I would probably try. I would cry tears of joy. It would not be pretty.
Oh, the things we take for granted. Me,
right?
Yeah.
If you could be adopted by any sitcom family, who would it be?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. The last TV show I watched was Frasier. Does that count?
it's a family. There's, a dad, two brothers. That is a family.
I don't watch TV enough, so I'm
Yeah.
I'm just gonna stick with that.
Yeah, I would have to go back to, because I watch very little nowadays. And I would have to go back to like Happy Days or one
Right.
of those, for my answer.
Okay. Yeah.
What brings joy?
Seeing into people, watching people, just observing humanity, people grow, dancing.
Nice. What brings peace?
Meditation, hugs, smiles, simple stuff, really. The ocean and mountains for me are a refuge.
Yes. What brings hope?
What brings hope? Just daily, working through fear and giving that message to other people.
Last question. What's the one thing you would want people to think immediately when you walked in the room?
You've got this. Yeah.
Awesome. Sensual-mystic.com. It's going to be in the show notes. It's right here on the screen if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. And it'll be in the show notes if you're picking it up on the podcast. You jump on, learn about Tamara, how magical she is. You can even, book an appointment with her right on site. It's been great having you on, my friend. This was a great conversation.
This was awesome. Thank you so much. I really, really, really appreciate it.
You are very welcome. Let me just remind everybody that my website is beaconroad.net, and it has my blog. It has some wellness and emergency health resources. It also has a little shop, and currently doing a challenge, calling it the Shine the Beacon Challenge. And there's going to be more on there on the website. And basically, you post on social media, talk about somebody in your life or in your community that does really amazing things that's either helped you or helped your community, and post on that. And we see it. You use the hashtag and we collect them. At the end of the month, we're going to do a raffle and give away some goodies. And from there, we're going to wind it down. Thank you all for watching or listening. And, money comes and goes and stuff comes and goes. The one thing we have that's limited is time. And the fact that you spent some of that precious resource with us today, it's greatly appreciated. And take care, be safe, and be well.